Hi, my name is Maggie Callaghan, and this is my IAH final presentation. Throughout history, there have been many examples of when East Asia shared and influenced the world with its culture, as well as the other way around. This presentation outlines some examples of the cultural exchange between East Asia and the world. East Asia has influenced the world in many ways, and throughout history, there are many examples of East Asia and the rest of the world exchanging pieces of culture. From as early as the Silk Road, East Asia has introduced new things to the countries around it, impacting our media, food, and scientific knowledge. One example of cultural exchange is the perception different countries have of each other. In order to understand the history of East Asia and how it's impacted the world around it, and how the world has impacted it, it's important to understand how people viewed East Asia. This goes back all the way to the first maps of the world. This is the most popular way the world is represented on a map. Europe is in the center, the United States is on the west side, and Asia is on the east side. But this isn't how maps have to be, and this isn't how the people from Asia made their maps. This map shows another way that the world could be shown. Asia is closer to the center, and this time the United States is on the east side. This last map is an old map showing Asia in the center, which in the beginning of making maps was how they believed it should be. This is an example of an exchange of cultural differences. This can be seen as more of a challenge in the cultural exchange of East Asia. Their map is not what became the basic understanding of what a world map looks like. Instead, the map that most people initially think of is the one where Asia is off to the side. Up next, a very significant way that East Asia influenced the world was the Silk Road. The Silk Road was a network of trade routes that brought together China and other countries in Asia and Europe. To the east, routes connected China to Korea and Japan. To the west, Turkey and Italy, and India in the south. Through these routes, countries were able to trade different goods native to them or things they created. Not only were physical goods traded, but ideas too. Some of the things China introduced to the rest of the world was silk, paper, jade, and different spices. This was an extremely significant event because it was one of the first major trade routes. It is also one of the first examples of how East Asia influenced the world. This is also significant because of how it helped and the growth of knowledge and advancement in technology. By other countries coming together and sharing their ideas and knowledge, new inventions could be created and further advancements. Without the Silk Road, different inventions could have taken much longer to be created. Up next is someone else attempting to influence East Asia. One of the first examples of someone traveling to East Asia with the intention to try and influence the people there is Matteo Ricci. Matteo Ricci traveled to China and was even the first European to go to Beijing, which was forbidden to foreigners at the time. Before we talk about the impact that Matteo Ricci made, it's important to know his story. Matteo Ricci was born in Italy in 1552. He joined the Society of Jesus, which is a Roman Catholic order of men. Through the Society of Jesus, he was assigned to go to China and teach them about Christianity, with the intention to try and convert those who would listen. During his time, he learned their language and taught them his knowledge of science and math. He also translated religious texts for them to spread Christianity. During his time there, he also received some inspiration himself. In this photo, you can see that his outfit is inspired by the typical outfit of a Buddhist monk. And there are some aspects of a Confucian scholar. Not only are the ways East Asia influenced the world important, but also the examples of when they were impacted by another culture. Although Christianity did not stick in China, Matteo Ricci is a famous historical figure known for his time spent in China and the ways they influenced each other. One of the most famous artists of all time is Vincent van Gogh. Most people can point out some of his most famous works that are worth millions of dollars. But although he is a very famous artist, his background and where he took inspiration is much more unknown. Van Gogh was born in the Netherlands in 1853. He was the oldest of 6 children and got into art when he started working for a branch of art dealers. This was the beginning of his art career. What most people are unaware of is that Vincent van Gogh was extremely inspired by Japanese artwork. This inspiration started just by buying and collecting Japanese prints, but eventually, Japanese prints covered the apartment Van Gogh lived in with his brother. This inspiration turned from just liking and collecting Japanese prints to using common Japanese methods and techniques in his own work. This first painting is a portrait of someone named Julian Tangai. Immediately, you can recognize aspects of Japan. Up here, Mount Fuji, here a cherry blossom, and a Japanese woman. Van Gogh especially took inspiration from the strong colors Japanese artists used, how lots of their work was centered around nature, and how it was joyful and unique, not hyper-realistic. Here's another example. Van Gogh also modeled how Japanese artists had something in the center and then a background or border. This is an example of the way East Asia inspired a very famous piece of history that many people are unaware of. Not only did East Asia introduce new goods into the world, but inspired people with their culture. The next example shows a way East Asia has influenced popular media. A popular movie created in 2003 starring Tom Cruise is called The Last Samurai. Lots of people have seen this movie and are aware that it takes place in Japan and is about Japanese history, but lots of people fail to realize how significant the end of Japanese samurai was for Japan. First, what is the history of Japanese samurai? Japanese samurai were warriors of Japan that ended up ruling over Japan for almost 700 years. They were part of the military class in Japan's caste system, which eventually became the highest rank class. Samurai were very disciplined people who followed the ethic code, the way of the warrior. When the samurai class rose to power, it was primarily due to the constant state of war that Japan was in. Japan was split into many states, always in battle with each other. Because of this, warriors, like samurai, were high in demand. When Japan finally reunited, the demand for samurai went down, leading many to become bureaucrats. For a mix of a lack of need of samurais and the Japanese government wanting to modernize Japan, the samurai class was completely abolished. The movie The Last Samurai is about these events. An American veteran is assigned to lead a group to try and get rid of a group of samurai who refused to accept the demolition of the samurai class. Although many people just watch this movie for entertainment, it is important to keep in mind that it is a piece of history. This is an example of how East Asia has influenced our media. The next example of East Asia influencing the media is in film, specifically with the TV show Squid Game and the movie Parasite. In recent years, an East Asian country that has become known for their media production is Korea, specifically South Korea. South Korea has produced many popular movies and shows, as well as music. These movies and songs have become popular all over the world. The first aspect of media that Korea has become popular in is movie and TV shows. One example of this is the popular Netflix show Squid Game. Squid Game is a TV show that can be watched on Netflix, and it was written by Hwang Duk-hook. Hwang Duk-hook was born in South Korea on May 26, 1971. He is a director, producer, and screenwriter. Dong-hook went on to create Squid Games, a thriller TV show. Squid Games is about 455 people who are invited to a game competition where the winner gets a very large cash prize. People are invited to be a part of the competition, and everyone who is invited is struggling with financial debt. Different games are played during the competition, but losing a game results in death. Squid Games Season 1 was released in 2021, and 4 years later, it is still the most watched Netflix series of all time. It was extremely successful, having 265 million views. Squid Game is one of the first examples of Korean production taking the world by storm. Squid Game was a large breakthrough for the Korean film industry, and the way it overpassed viewership for all other Netflix shows how it influenced and impacted the world. Another example of the Korean film industry taking the world by storm is the 2019 film Parasite. This movie was directed and co-written by Bong Joon-ho. It follows a Korean family who lies about their qualifications to start working for an extremely wealthy family. There are many plot twists, including finding out the husband has been finding out in an underground bunker inside the home. Parasite won lots of awards, including 3 Oscars, and it was the first non-English film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. This extremely popular film is another way East Asia influenced the world with its culture and abilities. Another part of our media is music. A genre of music that got started in South Korea is something called K-pop. This is another example of South Korea taking the world by storm. K-pop, which stands for Korean pop, is a genre of music that emerged in the 90s. This genre of music features girl or boy bands, and it differs from typical American pop through extensive choreography, overall aesthetic, and sound. As you can see here, the aesthetic is lots of bright colors. It's been known to question gender roles, and it focuses a lot more as a group as a whole rather than solo careers like in American pop. K-pop got extremely popular in the early 2000s. One example of a song going very popular is Gangnam Style, even though that was not created by a band like in these photos. It is kind of the start of K-pop getting popular, not just in Korea, but around the world. Um, it is an extremely popular genre of music with fans all over the world. One of the most well-known K-pop bands is BTS. BTS has won multiple awards, and it is only one example of how well-known K-pop bands or how popular K-pop has become. K-pop is something you often hear on the radio, you see clips of it in movies and shows, and it has influenced many aspects of everyday life. It is also a form of soft power for South Korea. Many fans of K-pop have been inspired to travel to South Korea to not only see performances, but also experience the culture. K-pop is just another example of East Asia influencing the world with its culture. By creating many fans, it's drawn people to visit their countries. Which in turn has introduced people to different aspects of their lifestyle. For example, like their clothing and food. Overall, K-pop has shown the world what South Korea and this industry can do, and it is definitely can be found in many aspects of everyday life. And in conclusion, East Asia has impacted the world in many ways. It has introduced new foods, goods, inventions, aspects of media, and so many parts of our everyday life. Throughout history, it has played a large role in the cultural exchange between countries. And to this day, all around the world, you can find many aspects of East Asia's culture embedded in daily life. Thank you.